Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to talk about something that has really been on my mind a lot recently. And if you follow me on Instagram, you know, because I have talked about this a little bit. I want to talk about how to kind of like put yourself out there and make friends in the midst of a depressive episode or while dealing with social anxiety. So I've always struggled a lot with social anxiety, really bad social anxiety, and it's more about before the event actually happens versus like during the event. And in full disclosure, I would say that currently I am going through a depressive episode. I can talk more about that in another video, but essentially I'm just having a really tough time with pretty much everything. So yeah, that's a whole nother story for another time. But essentially, if I do say so myself, I've been doing a really good job at putting myself out there and trying new things and committing to things, which I have always been notoriously horrible at. So I kind of want to get on here and share with you guys kind of what my mindset has been and how I've gotten through these things. So if you're anything like me, you probably have a lot of thoughts in your head, paranoid thoughts or irrational fears about interacting with other people, about making friends, about everyday life tasks, and that is obviously a function of anxiety. And for me, in a depressive episode, it's just tough in general to get out and do anything, really. Nothing seems to really ever make me fulfilled when I'm in a depressive episode, so it makes it tough to really want to do anything, and especially put yourself out there and make new friends and go do new things and try new things. So when you think about it that way, it seems quite impossible to kind of put yourself out there, but it is not, and I'm here to tell you otherwise. So the first thing I would say is to get out of your own head, and I'm sure your immediate first thought is it's not that easy. And it is not that easy. And a lot of people know that it is not that easy. So this is more about not allowing the thoughts and fears that overwhelm your mind to control you. And so it's about not allowing yourself to spiral when you're thinking these thoughts. For example, if you're thinking, no one's going to like me, I'm going to be awkward, I'm not going to make any friends, I don't know what to talk about, any of these sorts of thoughts, your mind will just keep finding ways to just keep finding more reasons and pinpointing more things as to why this won't be good, why this will be hard, why this will be tough. And so because I am so aware that these thoughts and feelings, they don't just go away. You can't just ignore them most of the time. It's just they penetrate your mind in such a way that that it almost seems impossible to get rid of these thoughts. So when I say get out of your head, what I mean is those thoughts and those fears are going to come regardless of what you do. If you're in this mindset that I'm talking about with social anxiety or like a depressive episode. So if you still want to do things and you still want to put yourself out there, even though you have these thoughts that literally will do anything to tell you that it's not worth it, it's going to be hard, it's going to be this, it's going to be that, or the other, you just have to do it anyway. And for me, it's helpful to remind myself that those thoughts and feelings are always there and they're always coming, and I'm working on combating them to the point where they don't even have any power over me at all anymore, but I'm not there yet. So for now, I literally just have to allow them to come and just say to myself, hey, this is just your anxiety talking. This is just your depression talking. It's almost as if you have to force yourself to do it, as if it were a school assignment that you just had to do or something. I have to go to this dance class. I have to go to it, and every thought in your mind is telling you otherwise, but you're just saying to yourself, nope, I know these thoughts are here, I hear them, I'm not paying attention to them, I'm just gonna go to this class regardless. And you just have to do it, and that's the first step. Just get out of your head. Don't sit there with those thoughts. Don't allow them to just fester. Just power through and do it anyway. And the second tip, which is specifically geared more towards dealing and interacting with people on the social anxiety aspect, is to just remind yourself the fact that we're all just human beings. And as simple as that may sound, I feel in my personal experience, my anxiety allows me to place a lot of value on other human beings and thinking like, what are they going to think of me? Am I going to be awkward? Am I going to make friends? You know, what if they don't like me? What if I do this? What if I say this? What if I look this way? I'm not pretty enough. I'm not cool enough. I'm not, like, all these sorts of thoughts about how other people will perceive me. And we all have to remember that they're just other human beings, no different than you or I, and they're no better than you or I. And what they think about you at the end of the day really does not matter. What other people think and feel about you does not define who you are. And there are going to be so many people out there that just you don't mesh with, that don't like you for no apparent reason, that are different places in their lives. There's just so many different people out there, and if we place all of our value, our own value and self-worth on what other people think of us, we'll never be happy. So yeah, so it's really helped me to just think of things in a way of like, they're just other human beings. Like when I go to work and I'm anxious about interacting with other coworkers, I have to remind myself, they are just human beings just like me. They're just human beings, that's it. They're not anything bigger or other than just another person like me with their own insecurities, their own life issues. We're all human beings going through things. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether or not someone else likes you or whether or not you make 10 best friends when you go to try this new thing and put yourself out there. Sometimes it just doesn't happen that way, and that's all right. There are people out there that you will mesh with and you will find friendships with and will love you and see you and understand you. And not everyone will, and that's all right. And putting yourself out there is how you find those people. Even if somebody seems like the most confident, awesome, coolest individual in the world, you don't know what they're going through. You don't know what they have going on in their head. But just bring other people down to the same level as you, and it can help to take away some of that fear and that anxiety about interacting with other people, because some of them might just be thinking the same thing that you're thinking about them. They just might be as intimidated as you are. So why not just go into it thinking, hey, we're all on this earth trying to do our best. That's it. You know, the third thing I think is important is commitment and consistency. So for me, something I've struggled with a lot in terms of like putting myself out there, trying new things, going to new meetings, going to new clubs, joining new sports, is that I don't commit and I'm not consistent with it. I'll try something new. It's very hard. I overcome all this anxiety and the stress and what have you, and I do it and I go, and then I never go again. And that happens a lot with me. And the way I get out of it is that I allow myself to make excuses and reasons as to why I don't want to go or why I can't go. And usually those excuses and reasons are illegitimate. Usually it's just my anxiety about the situation just kind of like trying to tell me to like abort mission, get out of there, don't do it. And it's usually, I can't even think of one legitimate reason that I've ever come up with as to why to not go to something that I knew I wanted to go to, or that I committed to, or that I should have gone to. So I have to make it a point to commit. For me, one of the things that I've gone into lately is basketball. So for me, every week, Wednesday, I keep it open, I keep it on my schedule, I put it on my calendar. Basketball at 6:30 p.m. every Wednesday. I have to keep that and hold it as if it were a job or something. Just remember that it's set in stone, it's in my schedule, it's in my calendar, and if the only reason I would not go is because if something came up that was legitimate. And the more that you commit, the more you go, the easier it will become and less stressful and anxiety inducing it will be. And for me, I think one of the really great things about the basketball team that I've joined is that it is exercise. So I'm committing to this thing that's, very hard for me to commit to. But with this depressive episode, exercise is one of the things that does help when you're depressed or when you're anxious or what have you, whatever mental health issues that you're dealing with. So it's one of those things where actually in the end it is going to be beneficial. And for me, going every single week, eventually it's just going to be like second nature, and I'm helping myself in more ways than one. I'm being social, I'm doing something that I enjoy, and I'm doing something that benefits my mental health, physically benefits my mental health. So, it's worth it in the end. The fourth thing I would say would be to be realistic. So for me, when I'll use the basketball example again, when I first started, I went to basketball and I had a good time, and it was interesting and fun. I didn't really talk to people though. A lot of people already knew each other. Although I was really, really proud of myself for going, and I had fun, I was happy. I left feeling a little bit melancholy because I was thinking I didn't really make any friends. I didn't really interact with any people. It's not like I'm good at the sport, so I made a name for myself or anything. I felt a little bit, down about that. But that wasn't realistic. I looked back and then I was like, wait, it wasn't really realistic. I expected to go to this thing for the first time and just make a million friends, come out of there with all the connections in the world. That's just not realistic. And I don't want to say that it's impossible or improbable, but in terms of, for me as a person with social anxiety in the midst of a depressive episode, the most likely thing to happen is not to come out with a million friends and need to have talked to everyone and gotten to know everyone and had this super social experience, because that's just not, first of all, something that I typically do, and second of all, it's all new people. Half the people already knew each other and I didn't know them. So I can't expect going into something where I'm like, hey, I'm trying to make friends, I want to put myself in there, then immediately the first time I go, it's gonna happen. So, you know, just not having too high of expectations for yourself and your performance. Like if it's a sport related thing, like for me, actually my performance, my physical performance, and not thinking like, oh my gosh, if I don't like score or whatever, I'm not gonna be this and not gonna be that. But also your performance in terms of how you interact with other people. Like no expectations, just go in there like, hey, I'm gonna try this thing out. I mustered up the courage to do it, and I'm just gonna see how it goes. Versus, I need to do this. This is how it should happen. This is how, nope, just go into it, open mind, open heart, and see how it goes. And pat yourself on the back and celebrate the victory of you going in the first place. And you may not be able to make friends the first time around. You may not have the best experience the first time around. You may not have combated all your irrational thoughts or, you know, whatever you're going through. You might have to leave early. You might be so overwhelmed. That's okay too. You went and you tried, and just try again next time, and that's all that matters. So just be realistic in your expectations. I'm encouraging you guys to go out there and just try it out and try these things out and try something new, put yourself out there and try to meet people and make friends and do something new. But I don't want that to come across as easy peasy lemon squeezy. I want to also remind you to be realistic with yourself and to not put such high expectations on yourself. Maybe it wasn't great the first time. Maybe it was great the first time. Maybe it wasn't great the second time. Okay, that's another part of why it's important to be consistent and to commit. Because if you keep going back and you keep trying it and you keep sticking it out, that's when you'll really see the reward. And lastly, I would just say release. When we're talking about individuals that are dealing with mental health issues, it's important that we acknowledge these feelings. And although we are trying to combat these feelings and thoughts and live our lives and, you know, put ourselves out there, these thoughts and feelings do exist. Because if you just try to push them to the back, they're still gonna be there and they're still gonna fester. So when you're doing something like this where it is very emotionally taxing, it's important to check in with yourself and listen to yourself and listen to your body and say, okay, I was thinking all these, you know, negative thoughts, these irrational thoughts. I am thinking these negative thoughts, these irrational thoughts, and I don't want them to be, but I have to acknowledge them and I can't ignore them. I can try to combat them, but I can't ignore them. So if you muster up the courage to go to this thing that you're gonna try, you know, go to the social event or whatever it is, and you do it and you make it through, and then you come home and you just feel sad, or you just feel inadequate, or you feel like it didn't go the way you want it to go. Anything that you feel, acknowledge that feeling, accept that feeling, and let it out and release. Like, I'm not saying everyone will need to do this, but for me, when I was giving the example of basketball and feeling quite melancholy after, I wrote about it. And I actually wrote about it on a post on social media, and that was my way of release. And sometimes I'll go to emotionally taxing events, I'll go to social events that are very emotionally overwhelming for me, and I'll go home and I'll cry after. And I know that sounds like so sad, but like, that is a way for me to release. I just cry it out, and then I feel better and I feel good and I feel okay. And hopefully over time doing this, I'll have complete control over these feelings, and I won't need to cry it out anymore because I won't have those negative feelings anymore. Yeah, so some ways for me, I cry it out, I journal it, I talk about it, I vent about it, whatever the situation is, I do release those feelings, or else I know they will fester within me. So yeah, I hope those tips helped and that they made sense. And also I wanted to do a video about exactly how to find things to get into, like activities or places to meet people and do new things. I just recently went to a meetup for creatives this weekend, which is something I was really anxious about, that I actually just put myself up there and I did that. And then the basketball thing, that was another thing. And just how to actually find these sorts of things, I would love to let you guys know how I go about finding these sorts of things, especially in New York City. I feel like the world is your oyster in New York City, so it makes it quite easy to find these things. Well, I wouldn't say quite easy, but it makes it easier. So I would love to share some videos on that. If you guys are interested, definitely let me know. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below. And yeah, sending you guys all the love and the light this world has to offer.